not feel the ground beneath me any longer. And my sister from the banks saw my head dip under, and she dove out, swam out to me, and pulled me in. Then, when I was 13, I had a horrible case of pneumonia. And my family, although we had our local doctor, we were very much the old country family where if someone got sick, mom and daddy tried to figure it out on their own before they did anything. So I was only feeling unwell for about a day. But I came home, I got in bed, and I don't remember anything thereafter. Okay? My father, as my sister told me, came to me with my favorite food, which was Godfather's hamburger pizza, deep dish, deep dish pizza. And he said, "Boy, come on, have some." And I vomited right on the pizza from what they tell me. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital. When I woke up, it was a very strange circumstance, and I'm fairly certain I wasn't dreaming this. But when I woke up, Dr. Sims was seated by my bedside, and I woke up and he said, "Hey there, thought I had missed. Hey there, thought I had lost you." And he's the quintessential old, crusty, grumpy, old white Southern doctor.
Yes.
And when he said that to me, he then followed that up with, "Yeah, we tried this new antibiotic on you, erythro something to other," and then he left. Now, I don't think he had been seated by my bedside that whole time. I had actually been in the hospital for 3 days, but I believe that he was just on his rounds, right? So usually, if you're a doctor who does hospital rounds, you usually come in the morning, then you come back in the evening, right? You come in the morning, you see your patients that are in the hospital already. Then you go to your office, then you come back in the afternoon to see anybody who had to be admitted or anyone who was unstable. So he was just passing through. He wasn't seated by my bedside the whole time. But it was interesting because after he left my room, I said to myself, I said, "That's what I want to do. I want to save people the way he saved me. Now twice he saved me, and also that same year, the year of my last swimming thing, I became a lifeguard. Because I couldn't drown another time.
No.
Okay? Three times would have been
Was enough. Absolutely. That is amazing because we're also, not only are we addressing health issues and making sure that you are healthy, and as Dr. Jones' practice says wellness, so we want to make sure that you are healthy as well, but we also want to encourage those business owners out there too, or those people that are interested in going back to school and don't know which direction to go in. In the testimony that Dr. Jones just shared with us, he let us know that God has a way of giving you clues, okay? When you have gone through a health scare, there's no way in the world that God will allow you to go through and overcome cancer or overcome pneumonia for nothing. So he allowed Dr. Jones to go through that so that the power of healing could rest on Dr. Jones. And so when that doctor sat there, he just brought out of Dr. Jones what was already in him because he had already overcome death 3 times. So if he could overcome death 3 times, then that means that he was well equipped to be able to help somebody else overcome death as well. So sometimes when you're going through something, it's not to break you down, it's to point you into the direction of your purpose and to point you into the direction of your calling. I have a similar story, and then we're going to go right into you just helping us all, because I'm going to be learning from this to get my diet and exercise and all of that together. I have a similar story. My mother was paranoid schizophrenic, and so she would bring us to Greenville, Mississippi Medical Center for her doctor's appointments. And I would never forget the doctor that she would see, the psychiatrist, the counselor, was very gentle, very warm, and very caring. And I sat in that seat as a child, and I did all of the talking. Like, I let him know, Mom is doing this, the brother is doing this, the sister is doing this. And when I left out of there, I said, you know what? That's what I wanted to do. And that's how I became a counselor. So these experiences matter. Don't just look over it and think, oh, that just was something. No, pay attention to those clues, because it could be the difference of your career catapulting and you being a doctor, just like Dr. Jones is sitting across from us today. Absolutely. So, what are some routine eating habits that you would encourage the
Sure.
people?
Sure. So first off, let's start with what you're supposed to already know. There's the food pyramid. Okay. So the bulk of that food pyramid, however, should be under the category of vegetables and fruits. Okay. And then you should have some meat, but you don't need meat with every meal. You can actually substitute certain things like legumes, peanuts, soybeans, red beans, kidney beans. You can substitute some of these things for meat so that you're not always eating meat. Many people, especially where we live in New Orleans, the diet is a whole bunch of brown things and a whole bunch of white things, right? They got rice, whatever their meat is with gravy, and whatever the vegetable is has meat in it. And then there's going to be some bread. There might even be some potato salad in there too. And you don't see a whole bunch grain in there, okay? And you don't see raw foods in there. And that's wrong in terms of how we're supposed to eat. So there's a fancy term called the paleo diet. All the paleo diet is, paleo meaning Paleolithic, what men look like in the Paleolithic time frame. So what were they eating? Well, these were people running across the plains of Africa. They didn't have Dunkin' Donuts. They didn't have any processed foods at all. No chips, no bagged anything. So what were they eating? They were eating a little piece of meat that they had saved up from the last kill that they had, and they were eating a lot of vegetables and nuts. That's what they were eating. They didn't have heart disease. Now, the Japanese don't have a lot of heart disease when they're in Japan either. Now, what are they eating primarily? Raw foods, raw fish, lots of vegetables, carrots, seaweed, and they have some rice as filler.
Right.
But they don't eat a lot of processed breads. Actually, you don't even get bread at a Japanese restaurant, right? So basically, what we would tell people is what they should already know. Reduce breads, rice, pasta, potatoes. Eat mainly meat, fruits, vegetables.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. How do we as a community break off just that generational wrong eating habits?
Sure.
Fatty meats, fried chicken. If it's been in your bloodline, how do you recommend that they wean themselves off or
Sure,
address that?
Sure. So a simple thing to do is choose a healthy substitute for a thing. So instead of frying your chicken, shake and bake or something similar to that. There are a couple of different products that will coat a chicken and make it crunchy. Or instead of having to need extra breading on the chicken, how about just grill the chicken? Okay, so we can do all of these things. We can do substitutes for any sauteing. Instead of sauteing in butter, do it in olive oil. There's also a product called Benecol, Benechol. I'm not making any money off Benecol, okay? but Benecol is a butter substitute that tastes like butter, but it lowers your cholesterol. Right, and they even have it in chews, they even have it in some drinks and whatnot that can be bought at a number of places. But so try to choose a healthy substitute. And if you can go from frying foods to grilling foods, you're probably half the way there in terms of high cholesterol, but that doesn't really address the obesity thing, okay? So now with that, first off, we need to get people to understand that women are supposed to look like you, your size. That's not what they believe. Okay, so I'm not going to guess at your weight because I will upset you. But the reality is, the average woman in the United States is about 5'5" tall. That's the average height, which means that they're only supposed to weigh 100 pounds for the first 5 feet, and then 5 pounds for each inch above. So the average woman is supposed to weigh 125 pounds, give or take, to either side. So maybe 135, 140 at the heaviest. Now you think about what I just said. The majority of your friends, social members, church members, family, if the woman's 5'5", is she 125 pounds? No, she's 170 pounds.
Ladies, I didn't say it. I'm keeping quiet because this is the truth. And I'm glad that you're tackling that, okay? Because if we're gonna talk about it, you guys, we just have to be real, okay? Sometimes we're putting girdles on, we're faking it until we're making it, we're acting like we're confident, and we're acting like we're satisfied with our image, okay? Now, Dr. Jones is giving it from a health point of view, but I'm gonna give it from a therapeutic point of view. A lot of women who are not internally happy with their weight suffer from depression,
Absolutely.
suffer from low self esteem, suffer from insecurity. And these are the women that, in a lot of cases, don't believe in sisterhood. It's a lot of conflict between other women because that woman is carrying a load herself
Absolutely.
that is bubbling over in how she feels about herself, which means that's how, she's also reacting outwardly towards other people. So the thing is this: if you want to feel your best, and if you want to be confident in who you are as a person, these are some active tools that you can take to address that issue. Anybody, we can put makeup on and we can act like it's okay, but deep down inside, you know how you feel about how you present, and it is going to affect not just your health, but your self-esteem. It's going to affect, the goals that you aim and reach for. It's going to affect, if you're living to your full potential or if you decide to settle. So we really want to take those eating habits serious, write those things down, and really, what else can you add to that person who is struggling,
Sure.
but maybe they can't afford a gym membership, or maybe they don't have a workout trainer.
So first off, we have to understand that it's really about what you eat. Exercising is great. I exercise every day, okay? But 90% of weight loss or weight control, because we would love it if we control it first, right? So I actually do a weight loss program through my office also. I do cold sculpting, I do laser lipo, we do lipoline injections. We have a great result where we have most women losing 30 pounds over the first 3 to 6 months. But here's the thing, they have to first accept something. So can we do the board?
Absolutely. This is good. You went right in. I appreciate that. Because it's like, you don't want to talk about it, but Lord, you're dealing with it.
Okay, so
Okay.
I got it. And we did pause, or you guys will be able to clip that out, right? Where we had to stop all that? Okay.
Yes.
So, you wanna ask that question again about,
Yes, and we'll pick right back there.
Is reflector in that bag?
Take a look at it, Adam, to make
Yeah.
sure. Because the board, I don't want to, because even if we need to close the glass,
No, it's not bad because he angled it this way.
Alright.
it's okay? Okay. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
just start
ask.
off with the question.
Okay, you ready?
3, 2.
Okay, so Dr. Jones, in terms of us managing our weight or managing our diet, what are some tools or techniques that you can give us to help us do that so we can address those insecurities or health issues that
Sure.
accompany that?
okay, so first we have to understand that if we are trying to control weight or diabetes or high blood pressure, why are we trying to do it? We're not just trying to achieve a number. Now, I told you that for women, the weight should actually be, for the first 5 inches, 5 feet, a woman should be 100 pounds. For each inch above that, she should be an additional 5 pounds. So let's say if this was the average woman in the United States who's 5'5". We then have 25 added here, 5 feet, 100 pounds, 5 inches, 5 times 5, 25, and therefore that lady should weigh 125 pounds, okay? Now, most women would not agree with that. They think that they should be bigger. I'm sorry, it's not the case. Now, why is it not the case? The reason it's not the case is because I'm not trying to make you pretty, okay? Hopefully you're pretty in your heart and in your eyes, and therefore you're gonna be pretty regardless, okay? And hopefully your mind is right, And then that'll just make it prettier too, okay?
Mhm.
But what I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to reduce death. So if we take the y-axis here that I have, and we plot events of death along here, okay? So this is death, development of diabetes, development of hypertension, okay, and development of high cholesterol. If we do that, and now we plot weight along this axis, so this is weight down here. So our x-axis is weight, our y-axis is all of these things, events of death, diabetes, hypertension, etc. As we go along here, what we will see is that as a person gains weight, the episodes increase. Now, here's what's interesting about this graph that I just drew here, this curve. This is a fancy term called logarithmic curve, that at some point, instead of it being straight lined, right, just a steady increase, it actually goes up quickly. Okay, so there are all these increased deaths once you exceed a certain weight, and that weight would be greater than 30% of your ideal body weight. So for this lady here, 30% would be about 40. So if this person at this height came in and she was 160 pounds, she would be considered morbidly obese, and hence she would be going along here where she has all of these increased events, death, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, related to her weight. Now, this exact curve is the same thing as we see when we see people having increases in their blood pressure. It's the exact same curve. It's the same curve that we see when people have increases in their cholesterol. It's the exact same curve, okay? So if you look at the recent data, we have it shown, proven experimentally, that being morbidly obese is a greater risk for death than you smoking cigarettes, okay? Now, so, can you guys see the bottom there, okay? Okay, you'll click that. So also, let's look at this in terms of what people should actually eat. What we would hope is that people would eat only what they can hold in their hands per meal, okay? So that should be the plate that we're using. You see that? About as big as my hands. A person should consume 3 ounces of meat or meat substitute. If you want to do tofu or something like that instead of meat, that's fine. But your meat should be about 3 ounces, okay? And then you should have twice as much fruit and vegetable, okay? Now this again is what I talked to you about, the Paleolithic kind of diet, because it's only meat, fruits, and vegetables, which is what men and women were
Yes.
eating for the last 40,000 years as we were running across Africa, okay?
Right.
So if we consume this kind of diet, that means that you should only have about 400 calories per meal. And that means if you have 3 meals like this, you're only taking in about 1,200 calories per day. And that's all we really need to take in, okay? So this is how people should eat. In addition to that, should get rid of all forms of sugar, okay, if you can. There's a product called stevia, which is natural. So a lot of people don't like the Splenda and the Equal because they say it tastes funny, and there's the notion that it causes cancer and makes people's brain crazy. I don't know about any of that. But stevia is from the stevia plant, and that plant is natural. So you can use stevia, and it's a 0-calorie item. The last thing I would say to you is about liquids. People drink coffees in the morning that are heavily sugared. They got cream, mocha latte, so forth and so on. That drink probably has 700 calories in it.
It's good though, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
So it has 700 calories in it. So you consume the amount in 2 meals nearly just with one beverage. Then there's the drinks that we drink during just the regular day. A can of soda has 250 calories in it. And that's if you just have a can, because you're likely going to buy the 20 ounce. So you're really taking in about 500 calories. So people should be careful about how much sugar they're putting in their body just through drink. That's a bad idea. Just drink water, flavored waters without sugar added.
Got it. And so let me ask you this. What are some signs of heart attack or stroke
Sure.
that would prompt and when they get those signs, how are they to respond to those
Sure.
signs?
So the number one sign of a heart attack is chest pain. That's why you see, they say, if you have chest pain, take an aspirin. They're right. If you have chest pain, take an aspirin. 30% of the life-saving ability of medications we give during a heart attack is from the aspirin alone. Okay, so if you feel chest pain, in addition to that, shortness of breath, sweating, nausea and vomiting, those are the primary symptoms. So the quintessential patient, the poster child of the person who's having a heart attack, is that he grabs his chest, he's got chest pain, he says, I can't breathe, and he's perspiring. You have to think that that's a heart attack.
Got it. And what are the signs of stroke?
Stroke is primarily a neurologic phenomenon. So what people say is, my hand feels weak, or it feels heavy. And I hear that an awful lot. That they won't say their hand feels weak, they'll say their hand feels heavy. So, and it's usually gonna be one side of the body, right? But it could just be the leg. It could just be the arm, but it's usually the entire side of the body. So they'll say, my leg feels weak, my arm feels weak, they'll say it's numb and tingly. Sometimes they'll have headache with it, if it's a vessel that bursts inside of the brain, but usually they don't have that. They will also sometimes have the face droops,
Got it.
okay? And they therefore slur their words, or they can't get their words out.
Got it.
Frequently, both heart attacks and strokes occur in the morning, okay? Absolutely, which is why we tell patients, take your blood pressure pills at bedtime, because the increase in your blood pressure could lead to that heart attack or that stroke at 8 a.m. So if you take your blood pressure pills at bedtime, then hopefully your blood pressure will stay low through the night. In the morning, and you won't experience a heart attack or a stroke.
And I want to tell you, thank you so much for covering, because we're getting to the basic, which means that if you can manage that weight, a lot of these health issues will be avoided, because that was the proactive treatment that you discussed, that Jones Wellness Cardiovascular Medical Center believe in. In closing, how do people, knowing how to manage the weight now, how do they manage the stress? Because stress
Sure.
leads to a lot of health issues as well.
So I unfortunately have to say that this is another issue that I think affects African Americans more. Okay. Quick story, I was driving home yesterday, and I wasn't speeding, but a young lady was in the same neighborhood as my office, and as I was coming up the street, she started yelling at me. She was yelling at me saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. Her child had just crossed the street in front of me, but I saw the child. I saw the child. I was even close to hitting the child, okay? But then what I thought of after I said to her, stop yelling at people just for the sake of yelling, right? So, because I said to her, I said, I saw your child. I saw your child. I wasn't gonna hit your child. And she kept yelling. And what it made me think of, because one thing we have to have in our hearts is compassion, right? So a bad circumstance happens, and what comes from that bad circumstance is largely how we approach it. And how we approach things is based on our level of compassion. Now, I could have been a jerk and yelled at her rudely, but I understood what her circumstance was to some degree. Her child had crossed the road. She turned her back to get another one of her children out of the car, and all of a sudden she sees my car there, and she's distressed. But she also let me know something else by her yelling like that, because there's really not a good reason to yell at a stranger, right? Is that she's under a great deal of stress.
Yes, she is.
She's under a great deal of stress. She has 3 kids. I don't know that she was a single mother, but she didn't have someone else there helping her with the children, okay? So this is something that I see in our people a lot, that we are under a great deal of stress, okay? And my father, I keep talking about my father. My father had another saying where he says, boy, you know, pressure will bust a pipe.
Come on.
Okay, so pressure being stress. And we unfortunately are in a circumstance where we're constantly under stress as African Americans. So what we need to do with that is, we need to figure out a way to relieve some of that stress. One thing would be this: have faith in the Lord. Okay, if you set upon any task and it's not being done for the right reason, it's not being done with God and God's kingdom in mind, you're kind of lost from the start. So when things go wrong,
You expect that.
when things go wrong, you don't know where to turn. You're lost. I think that one goes about the seeds that were thrown onto the rocks and did not grasp roots, right? So So you need to have a foundation built in God and His works. You need to do things for the right reason. Give your best with everything you do. So that way you're not stressed out when you don't get the right result. Exercise daily, okay? Spend time doing the things you want to do. Okay, if you have to make a little less money so that you can be with your children, so that you can go to that play you wanted to go to, so you can volunteer at the school or at the church, make a little less money and do the things that make more sense for you and not be so tied materialistically.
Got it. I absolutely love it. Dr. Michael Jones has graced us with his presence, his wisdom, and we thank you for covering absolutely the medical model. And he covered the main core parts, which is going to be our weight and our stress. You've heard it from Dr. Michael Jones. Thank you.
Thank you.
And cut. All right.
Sorry to get the mean
Did
so.
so
I didn't mean to
good.
get so long.
No, we needed that though. Like, and I was like, look, we're not gonna close this out until we talk about the stress, because you know what happens? You have somebody who might be underweight, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I listened to that, but there was nothing that dealt with, my issue, but they might be underweight, but yet stressed out, and that could be leading to the underweight. So we want to give something. So not everybody is overweight.
Sure.
So we wanted to make sure that we talked about, something to help others.
In New Orleans, most of them are.
Yes. My God.
I had this lady who came in today, and truly, we have a success rate of, it's across the board. I can't think of one patient I have not been able to get to lose some weight. But our average weight loss over about a 3-month period is about 30 pounds. So this one lady came in to see me today. First off, she got weed in her urine, okay? Because I have to check, I can't just be writing stuff,
And we don't
right,
know.
so I have to check to see what's in her urine. So she got weed in her urine.
My Lord.
She's 231 pounds, and she's 5'6".
Woo!
You going, woo, that's average, brother. Women in New Orleans, there are things that